I think St. Philip has had a big impact for the very reason that all of the nurses, or most of them, who have graduated from St. Philip have been recommended highly, and they're sought for all over the country to work in hospitals and clinics and various positions. And I think that if you say St. Philip, they realize that you're an excellently trained person.
That was a career for me, being a St. Philip nurse. And I could go out and work any place. Where so many had, if you went up north, you had to have another exam to work up north, but we didn't have to. It was a very good school of nursing.
One of my fondest memories during my stay at St. Philip occurred in my senior year. The dean sent for me and asked me to come to her office, and I was just so shocked. I thought it was something that I had done wrong, but it turned out to be a very pleasant surprise. I was selected by the staff to attend the last meeting of the National Association of Colored Graduate Nurses in New York City, the Big Apple. I'd never been there before, and it was indeed a pleasant surprise to know that I was to represent St. Philip at this meeting. It was held at the Essex House in downtown New York, and we stayed at the Hotel Teresa in Harlem, and we had a lovely, lovely dinner.
It is what and how they taught us, because they didn't play. We had to get it, and after I graduated and went out and started working, I appreciated that, and I still look back at it and say what a good job they did.
We got a very sound education there, which prepared us to go out into the world, and we did very well.
Everywhere when we got ready to apply for a position, we did not have to give them a reference because they felt that we had been taught perfect. And of course, they would hire us and then they would get the reference. And that is the impact that I felt at MCV, St. Philip School of Nursing in MCV.
Well, we worked pretty hard anyway. And it was a certain way we had to be dressed. You had to have on long sleeves, and you had to have your uniform down below your knee. And our shoes. Miss E. Louise Grant was our Dean of Nursing. And you had to look very, very neat, and you had to have your shoes shine, and you had to sit like this. And she was our professional adjustment. That was what she taught us then, professional adjustment.
We found that those students from St. Philip's did extremely well no matter where we went around the country. And it was always a lot of fun when I was on active duty in the Air Force to meet a St. Philip nurse. There were a few that I would meet, but I always enjoyed it. It was like meeting a sister or a relative of mine.
Well, we did have to go through some hard things, like we couldn't be called Miss. The white nurses were called Miss, and we had to be called Nurse. Like my name was Emma Sanford, I had to be Nurse Sanford. And we weren't allowed to be called. We called each other Miss, but the doctors were told to call us Nurse, and everybody else, on the staff called us Nurse this and Nurse that. And we had our own dormitory. We were pretty much segregated, as that was what it was at then. But we did have classes with the rest of them. We did have classes with MCV nurses. Most of our classes were with them. And the same doctors that, taught us, we had taught the med student.
When we met together, we had to meet in the Egyptian building, and that was when all of the classes that was there met together, and we were segregated also in a group.
I think now they talk about diversity in the school. We were diversity when we were there. It wasn't looked upon as diversity, but we were. We gave VCU School of Nursing diversity. The St. Philip graduates did.
And one of the things that was most interesting when we were in school, when we had to take psychiatric nursing, we were in New York for 3 months, and that was almost like being on a vacation because we only had that one course, psychiatric nursing, and that was very exciting for my class.
Well, my education at St. Philip was in psychiatric nursing, and however, we had to go to Brooklyn State Hospital in New York because we were not allowed to go over, where MCV was at that time. And I enjoyed that.
When I got there, I immediately befriended some other affiliates who were New Yorkers, and they just took the opportunity to show me all of New York. We went out every weekend to see places in New York. I had never been to New York before, so I found that very exciting.
I like the classes, the instructors. We had a variety of instructors. They weren't just black, we had black and white instructors. And the classes were very interesting. The instructors were very patient with the students. And I like it when we came into the hospital and put on the uniforms and worked with the patients.
Meeting so many new people, students and instructors, and I was in awe of the school itself. The instructors were great, and for me, it was an eye-opener. Different backgrounds, although we're all Afro-Americans, but I came from South Carolina, and I met students from New York, Florida, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and I've made lifetime friends.